You know, it seems that Jude in his New Testament epistle is very serious about warnings of judgment. And of course, you realize he is writing to God's people. Good morning. This is Pastor Ernie Lewis of the Blue Point Church in Sisney, Illinois, with your thoughts for Friday. In Jude's New Testament epistle, he is warning the believers by reminding them of the judgment of God, where he begins with the judging of the Israelites in the wilderness because of their unbelief. Then he turns to the judgment of his own angels. In verse 7, he turns to God's judgment on the wickedness of this world. He says in verse 7, just as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities around them in a similar manner to these, having given themselves over to sexual immorality and gone after strange flesh, they are set forth as an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. We know the wickedness of Sodom and Gomorrah, which God chose to judge in Genesis chapter 19. They were so well known for their wickedness, that is where we get the word sodomy today, for their wicked actions. And unfortunately, Lot and his family had left the presence of Abraham and the influence they had there in order to live among these people, and his family was influenced negatively by them. Jude says they had given themselves over to sexual immorality and gone after strange flesh. We know that any act of sex outside the marriage vow is expressly forbidden by the Scripture. And God's law for man's best in life is within the marriage relationship. Well, not only were they living in sexual immorality, but they had gone after strange flesh. Their sins had escalated to such sinful acts even against nature. We're reminded of God's judgment in Romans chapter 1, where man had followed uncleanness in the lusts of their hearts to dishonor their bodies among themselves. And men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust for one another. Men with men, committing what is shameful. Doesn't the sin of Sodom and Gomorrah sound familiar in our society today? Our new administration is forcing a gay and transgender agenda on America today, like Sodom and Gomorrah. And I wonder how long God will wait to bring judgment. Jude reminds us that the city was set forth as an example. When the Lord chose to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, Abraham prayed for their deliverance, but God could not find enough righteous people that he would spare it. What if God were to decide to destroy our nation for its wickedness today? Could he find enough righteous people who would take a stand and follow him in order to spare the destruction of America? Jude says they suffered the vengeance of eternal fire, which is so much greater than the fire and brimstone that destroyed their city. We're concerned about our families, about our friends, even us, that without God, we may suffer, not only for an earthly judgment here, for their wicked acts against God's law, but even suffering the vengeance of an eternal fire that is never quenched. That's why Jude is warning us. Contend for the faith. Stand firm. Trust in God every day.